There is an implicit assumption in your question that it's a problem for Israel.
I said we.
We, okay. If by we you represent the whole,
Okay, but it also is a problem for Israel.
Yeah, it's also a problem. I believe it's a problem for the world. We have heard Amano, the head of the IAEA, listen to him during this gathering on other issues. I think that their report, the recent report, is extremely important. Not because it tells that the American president or the German chancellor or the British prime minister didn't know, but because it makes it transparent and apparent to the whole world that the Iranians are trying to turn nuclear. And it makes the challenge a challenge for the whole world because a nuclear Iran will change totally the landscape of the Middle East. It will impose on the other three pillars to turn nuclear. Namely, you could listen a day before this gathering to what was published on behalf of Prince Turki, who was here, extremely extraordinary figure from Saudi Arabia. He predicted that they won't have a way but to turn nuclear. Listen to David Turlu, the foreign minister of Turkey. Those of you who had the opportunity until a year ago to talk to Mubarak or Omar Slimani about what will follow in Egypt, I believe that the whole region, it's the end of any non-proliferation regime, and it will start the counting down toward the terrible vision described by Professor Graham Ellison of Harvard about terrorist nuclear capability. That at the end, if so many players will do this, some of them led by Islamist groups, you won't be able to avoid finally, probably 10 years down the stream, the leakage of weapon-grade materials in the end of terrorists. But it's not just about nuclear capability. It's about the way the terror will be sponsored. Every terrorist organization, Al-Qaeda, Lashkar-e-Taiba, the Baluchi tribes in Afghanistan, the Shiite resistance in Iraq, the Houthis in Yemen, the bandits in Somalia, all of them are somehow sponsored by Iran, and not to mention Hezbollah and Hamas. Which
So,
are
I mean,
so it's a crazy situation.
Given a good reason for doing something, and obviously
for
Israel
the whole
and
world,
allies are
for
doing
the whole
something.
world. I believe that when more, I don't know exactly what happened in this recent explosion in some place in Iran,
Some
where
people
they
think it was
afterwards buried one of their
Generals.
leaders, leaders of the missile program. But I will not be surprised if they are keep moving toward missiles which have a longer range than those that cover Israel or neighboring countries. And it's only a matter of time that Vienna will be within the reach of their missiles, or Paris, or probably other corners of the world. It's a crazy situation. It's not a normal. The Iranian people is extremely gifted, normal, with long history and great civilization. But they were caught by a group of ayatollahs, all of them extreme, including the moderate ayatollahs are extremely extreme. And they decided, you know, they tell from every podium that Israel should be erased from map and history. And they happen to produce not just Persian carpets or new models of Barbie dolls, they happen to produce nuclear weapons. That it would be totally irresponsible not to look reality at the eye and understand that something quite disturbing is happening. Well, now, having said all that, I still believe that time is for urgent, coherent, paralyzing or kind of, paralyzing sanctions. Right. And nothing short of a full quarantine on import or export, probably even import of oil products. And a direct attack, isolation by the whole world of the Iranian central bank. Nothing short of this kind of sanctions will work. And it's urgent because they have a plan, deliberately kind of staged to reach certain immunity through redundancy. By producing or creating a situation where there are too many sites, too many too much lowly enriched uranium, too many centrifuges, that they will be practically immune. And only by then, where they feel immune, they will consider how to continue. That's so apparent and simple that I wonder sometimes how honest people and leaders in the world take such hardship to see it.
I mean, but the only way they'll stop is if they feel the Islamic Revolution itself is at risk and their own Revolutionary Guards. It's going to take more than sanctions. I mean, do you favor something short of bombing, something like a sea embargo of Iran? It's an act of war, but it's not bombing, it's not ground troops. Is this something people should consider?
First of all, about the tensions, there are tensions within these elites.
Meyer Dagan has written about
there is
it.
a social unrest simmering from underneath.
In Iran.
In Iran,
Yeah.
I believe that the Iranian people can look how people are living around them and around the world and have a second thoughts about the promise of this regime for them. But as I mentioned earlier, we learned a lesson about modesty. We cannot pretend that we can really influence actively what happens there internally. I would love to see the Arab Spring jumping over the Arab Gulf or Persian Gulf, depends from which side you look at it, into Iran, but it didn't happen.
It got crushed.
Yeah, it got crushed 2 years earlier, probably without enough support or backing from the world. So basically, I believe that there are challenges for the whole world. No stable equilibrium can be there. And whoever is worried, and many are worried for good reasons, about what might follow if something deteriorates in Iran, try to close your eyes, think that you are 3 years down the stream, and Iran turned nuclear. And the very same intention to hegemonize the neighbors, to intimidate neighbors, who would have liberated the small Emirates if it is overwhelmed by nuclear Iran with simple boats and 20 people in each boat. You can only close your eyes, think of what would have been the case with Gaddafi if he would credibly declare at the opening of the recent events there that he has 3 or 4 nuclear devices.
Now, just
what kind of decision process making?
Just before I go to the audience, I want to ask you, Meyer Dagan and other former intelligence officials have said that there has been big debate in the government about a military strike on Iran and that you were supportive of it. Is this inaccurate? Is this accurate? Is it out of context? What do you say?
I think that the whole statement was kind of was not. It was better if he would not produce these ideas and share them. Of course, there are discussions in Israel. We are an open, and we discussed many issues. I cannot directly answer this question. I do not want. Okay. I think that it was not the greatest moment of Dagan. He's a great person with many achievements, but I don't want to directly answer this. I can just tell you that basically what I think is that this regime in Iran, the Ayatollahs, they will not be there, I believe, in 10 or 15 years. It's against the nature of the Iranian people and what happens all around the world. But if they turn nuclear, they might assure immunity, another layer of immunity, political immunity for the regime in the same way that Kim Jong-il assured his. If he would not have been nuclear, I believe that the regime would have been found out. So there is a competition between turning military nuclear or going out of power. And I believe that the world has to act in a coordinated manner to make sure that this regime, the combination of ayatollahs and nuclear weapons, is not healthy for any neighbor close or afar from Iran.
Okay, what I would like to do is